Welcome to Waking Up Tired, Narcolepsy Symptoms Explained, a limited podcast series that gives voice to what narcolepsy symptoms truly feel like from the patient's perspective. I'm Di Spillane, your host. In today's episode, Alicia shares what it's like to wake up unsure if a conversation happened, if a loss was real, or if they're in trouble for something that only occurred in a dream. It's a raw, honest look at how trauma, sleep disorders, and misunderstood symptoms can shape everyday life, and how community, persistence, and self-advocacy can help reclaim it. This is a story about clarity, confusion, and the courage to keep asking questions when the answers aren't always easy to find. Meet Alicia.
My name is Alicia. I was experiencing vivid dreams, the type that really make you struggle to tell the difference between what's real and what isn't. It would start with simple things like being late to work, and I would wake up and wonder if that had actually happened the day before. But then it also escalated into not remembering what I'd said to people, and it really affected relationships. It took 7 years to find out why this was happening to me. I was 26 when I was told that I had narcolepsy type 2. I have these dreams that are really vivid and realistic. They often are about things that would never happen and unrealistic events, and, your usual kind of dreams that they're a bit out of the ordinary and you can tell that they're dreams. But the ones that I find to be a problem are the ones that are just about my ordinary everyday life. A common one that I have is being late to work, which I think is probably because it's in the back of my head pretty frequently, with obviously the other symptoms of narcolepsy, meaning that I do struggle to get out of bed in the morning before I've had meds. So that's kind of a constant worry, and I'll have these dreams about being late, and then I'll have a conversation with my boss and it'll all be really, really clear. And obviously when I wake up, I know that it hasn't actually happened, but then you get a few days down the track and you're looking back on it like, okay, so was I late for work the other day, or was it just a dream? I frequently can't remember what conversations I've had and what I haven't had. And then I'm constantly in the spiral of, oh, did I do that? And am I in trouble? And trying to remember what's actually happened and what was a dream. So those ones, because they happen quite often, I'm getting better at picking them and knowing what's actually happened and what hasn't. But it got worse recently. I had a bit of a traumatic life event. At first, I was just having like the really vivid dreams, kind of reliving the whole thing, which I think is probably a normal trauma response, which I was able to get help from a therapist and work through that. And they stopped for a bit. And then I've started having these really vivid dreams about everyday life. And in these dreams, the event still happened, but the outcome was different. So in these dreams, I'm living my life as I am today, but without the loss that was experienced. So it feels really realistic. And then I'll wake up and, start going about my day. And then I'll have the realization that, oh, wait, that's actually not reality anymore. And it's reopening a wound and makes it really hard to move on and heal from that, because I'm constantly thinking that the outcome is different to what it actually was because of these dreams. So that's probably been the worst one so far that I've been having to deal with. I do occasionally have dreams about arguments with friends or family where they've done something that's really upset me, or I've done something that's really upset them, and we've had an argument about it. Then if I don't see that friend for a couple of days, again, it's the, hang on, are they upset with me? Have I done something? Did that conversation actually happen? So it has been known to be detrimental to relationships in the past, because I'm constantly in that anxiety spiral of what have I done, and was it real, and did it actually happen? And I can't go to them and say, hey, did I actually do this thing that I dreamt about, because it sounds stupid to me and probably to them as well. it's a lot better now because I've explained to the important people in my life that I have these ridiculous dreams, and they understand a lot better now and will help me when I'm struggling to remember what's real and what's not. But yeah, in the past, it's definitely been difficult. So I was diagnosed when I was 26, so about 2 years ago. I'd been to so many doctors, I'd had so many tests, and I had depression as well. And every time I spoke to somebody about it, it was, oh, it's just the depression, that's why you're tired. And I'd looked into it a little bit, and obviously I'd heard of narcolepsy, and it was kind of a bit of a joke. Like, people would say to me, oh, you're probably got narcolepsy. That's funny. That's a funny joke. And when I looked it up, I was like, yeah, that might actually not be a joke because everything fits really well. Luckily, I have a really fantastic doctor, and I did mention it and say, is there any sort of sleep testing or anything like that I could do? And she immediately found me a specialist and referred me. But I think because it is so, like, it's not well known, it's not talked about, and I think that kind of refers to health professionals as well, because it's not a diagnosis that they really seem to consider. Like I said, my doctor is fantastic and I wouldn't be where I am now without her, but it was me who brought it up in the first place. I think I realised that something was significantly wrong at 19, but looking back, like, I'd definitely been experiencing symptoms before that, but it got to the point where I can't function because I'd started going to uni and I was falling asleep in lectures, falling asleep in tutorials, and it was embarrassing. And people were like, well, just stay awake, it's not that hard. It really is. So I was seeing my doctor before then, but that's when I started getting referred for more tests and blood tests, and like had my heart checked and a heap of other things that I can't even remember all of them now, to be honest. But that was when I started trying to push to get it looked into a bit more. And then once I had quite a few tests in a row and didn't get anywhere, and everyone was like, oh, well, there's nothing wrong with you, it's just because you have depression, I gave up for a bit and just had to live with it and figure out how to make it work for me. My specialist thinks that mine is from repetitive head injuries, because he said it can be like autoimmune, or if you've had head injuries, it can damage the part of your brain that regulates your sleep-wake cycle. I ride horses, so I'd had a few concussions. And then I had an incident where I got kicked in the head by a horse, and I was wearing a helmet, luckily, so it wasn't too bad. But after that, it did seem to get worse again, which I think is what kind of pushed me to follow up again. My specialist has been really, really good. Like, he's changed my life, but he gave me some information, but he also said there's not a lot that they know about it. So he couldn't give me a lot of detail and prescribed me medication. And I asked him if it would interact with anything else that I was on, and he said no. And then down the track, I found out that it interacts with the birth control pill that I was on, even though I'd asked him and I asked the pharmacist when I got it. So nobody knew, and I figured it out on my own and went back to him and said, hey, I think this is messing with my birth control pill. And he looked into it himself and did some more research and realised that it was. So little things like that, well, it's not a little thing, it's significant, that nobody seems to know, and you kind of have to work out for yourself. He did explain that a lot of the other symptoms that I had that I didn't realise were related to narcolepsy were in fact related to narcolepsy. So like sleep paralysis and the vivid dreams and everything like that. I thought it was just the sleepiness, but it's a lot of it. He did explain all of that, which helped me kind of reconcile everything and understand why I am the way that I am. But there was definitely holes in the information that I was given. I've done a bit of my own research, but I find that a bit frustrating because a lot of what comes up is just things that I do already know, or a lot of sources going, so we don't really know why this happens, but it does. So they didn't know a whole lot. So I've been back to see my specialist a few times and asked him more questions, and he's been great. But in terms of the information I needed for my own sanity, I guess, like tips to just get through life, has definitely been the Facebook group. Just being able to talk to other people that understand, because I don't know anybody else in real life that has narcolepsy. I've never met anybody else who's been diagnosed with it. And to find a group of people that you can interact with that understand and don't make light of the situation and know that it really is quite debilitating, but are also able to give you tips and tricks to help yourself get through, that has been super, super helpful for me. It's actually been amazing. Like, finding that group was just great, because I still really struggle with getting up in the morning. Just like a little tip, set yourself an alarm that's like 15 minutes earlier than you actually have to get up. Have your medication and a water bottle on the table, have the medication out of the packaging so that you can literally just take it and go straight back to sleep. Like, it just makes such a huge difference. It means I'm not falling asleep on my drive to work because I haven't taken my medication early enough and I can't stay awake, and it really helps. They're fantastic, and they obviously are very knowledgeable, and I'm very grateful that I found mine, but it's not the same as talking to somebody who goes through the same thing that you do every day.
And that was episode 3 of Waking Up Tired. If you've ever questioned your own reality after waking up or felt dismissed by the medical system, I hope this conversation reminded you that you're not alone and that your experience is valid. Huge thanks to Alicia for sharing so vulnerably. If you're listening and recognising parts of your own journey in what you've just heard today, I encourage you to keep asking questions, keep seeking answers, and please speak to your doctor. This podcast exists to raise awareness, foster understanding, and help others find the diagnosis and support they deserve, sooner, not later. Join us next time as we continue exploring narcolepsy through real voices and lived experiences. Thanks for listening to Waking Up Tired.